Recent studies have shown that the Caribbean reef is susceptible to macroalgae blooms when mass disease occurs from marine life, overfishing, or hurricanes. Research scientist Mumby et al. Aim to investigate two pending variables: whether macroalgae dominant reefs are the future return to a stable ecosystem, or whether the health can be easily reversible. Three main equilibrium states were developed from systematic modules of the ecosystem known as parametheide simulation modules, formed from the empirical studies documented in the Leeward Islands, Southern Caribbean and Central America, demonstrating realistic interactions, determining the types of equilibriums that categorize the Caribbean ecosystem and their reversibility, assuming that the reef will withstand moderate hurricane intensities over 20 years and not shift to a macroalgae dominant state. This involved monitoring the changing aspects known as unstable equilibriums of individual coral colonies in these areas, discovering that the reef thresholds can be collaborated with pre-proposed modules, identifying targets for restoring the reef's ecosystem processes. These plots were produced via the analysis of 100 simulations during coral observations. Thus, the Caribbean reef is vulnerable to the alternative stable equilibrium state. In 1980, a decline in health due to hurricanes. In 1983, overfishing of urchins. In 1993, mass death of sea urchins due to disease. Grazing intensity decreased to 5 to 11%, shifting the ecosystem almost to a macroalgae dominant state, seen by coral decrease in Figure 1. Based on the graph, with the support of parrotfish grazing, the reef ecosystem recovered gradually, with coral coverage plateauing out. Thus, coral incarnation will continue to occur even when algae overgrowth is very within distributed levels. Within Figure 2, it is seen that the Caribbean reef did not completely shift to a macroalgae dominant state, as the demeanor urchin population recovered. Thus, if there's always the presence of grazers, coral coverage will continue to trend towards greater coral density. In Figure 3, three-state logical models determine the features for ecological hysteresis effect that are vital to this investigation, such as the stability of coral and macroalgae populations that are dependent on grazing productivity seen in Figure 3a. The instability of coral arises when there is a combination of all unstable states, known as CMTU, that lead to macroalgae domination seen in Figure 3b. Based on this graph, for a reef to remain stable, both parrotfish and urchin populations must be healthy, maintaining grazing intensity of 40% or above. Overall, this graph will help recognise reef recovery thresholds to determine the grazing intensity levels required for reversing the deteriorating health of a reef. In conclusion, the reef's ecosystem is vulnerable to the alternative stable equilibrium, with dramatic alternations between two major conditions if detrimental effects occurred. If management had taken place a decade prior when coral coverage was stabilised at 30%, the initial grazing intensity could have restored the reef's ecosystem. Research papers such as the ones written by Terry et al. In 2007 showed similar studies such as Mumby et al. Of the same species, location, and methods such as coral predictions and observations, finding that the reef's health can be reversible, avoiding phase shifts through marine management. This is similar to the findings reached by Mumby et al. In their team in their investigation, illustrating that the article is non-biased, relevant and informative to other research writers. Thank you.